Well, Bulaws and Barras. It is time once again on this, I think, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday morning. Happy Wednesday morning over here from a bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. Not getting rained on today, which I'm actually rather happy about, even though it has cooled down, so that's good for me as well. Less sweat in my life. Anyways, plenty to talk about on Bitcoin as, well, actually yesterday was more or less kind of a nothing day, but that does actually offer up some nice short-term and medium-term resolution for those ranges going into today's trading day, and I do believe that there will be some very interesting things coming up. So with that said, Jesus Christ, man, I sound like a fucking weatherman right now. Craig, you are right. Jesus, man. Anyways, I want to get into the Krown trading application over here, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net. And we can see that still the open interest pretty much standard where we are, 1.9.5 billion. Really just waiting for Elsa's gasping in the background. By the way, she's going to be on Twitch today, and she actually might even be doing a camera reveal as she gets very nervous in the background. Anyways, open interest still hanging around that level, which we don't really have anything to make off that until we actually get a break of the high-term time frame regions, which are still the same, 9,900 to the upside and an 80 or 8,900 to the downside. I suppose we could use now, as that would be the higher low in place for a higher-term time frames. But other than that, there's really not too much to be made off of it. Bitcoin dominance coming down, as we spoke about yesterday. Most alts putting in some nice rallies. The strong alts are doing actually very well, and we can take maybe a small looks at them. Fear and greed index still in the 40 range. So again, if I am trying to make a valid case for both sides, the fear and greed index being in the fearful zone, while Bitcoin is still maintaining, what is a 2-day, 3-day, and higher term time frame uptrend, would still be more on the bullish side, absolutely. And coupling that up with the strength in traditional markets, I do think bodes rather well. However, at the end of the day, price action first, and for Bitcoin, price action is rather lackluster at this current moment in time. Oh, also, all the programs are on sale for the time allotted at the top side of this banner right here. That is what I what the fuck was I going to say about that? Yeah, 20% off. You don't need any sort of a code. As always, definitely watch the videos that accompany them, because it's going to explain who they're for, who they're not for, what's included in the program, what to expect, that sort of a thing, because it may be that they're not relevant to you at all. It may be that they are exactly what you're looking for. Who knows? I can't make that decision for you, but you are very likely an adult, and if you're not, then you probably shouldn't invest in something like this. But but you are an adult, and you're more than welcome to make the decision for yourself. But I would say, in order to really make the most out of it, and a way to kind of know if it's going to be a good fit right off the bat or not, is do you have enough time? As the TA program and the options program are very much time intensive, and on top of that, realistically, what I also want to say as well, trading is very, very difficult. Trading is an incredibly difficult skill to master, but it can be done. With that said, understand that even with these programs, even with all of the help in the world, even when I had, a mentor who is one of the best traders, maybe one of the best traders in the world at the time, it still is a long-term type thing. And I usually see people take, maybe about a year to a year and a half if they actually do pull through. And it takes a lot of concerted effort on your behalf as well. However, the information is there, and if you, if you really want to do it, it can be done. But there is, it's no secret that most traders fail, and most people fail just in general, not to laugh at it, but because it's really just a matter of effort and time that make it possible to actually accomplish something over time. But in this day and age, with 7-second clips of videos taking over, that whole dynamic has gone out the way. So I do want to say that. But I always want to be the light at the end of the tunnel, saying, hey, if you do want to do it, it can be done. Just understand it's going to be very, very difficult, and it's going to take time. Like I say, usually about a year to a year and a half. Some people do get there faster. I've seen 6 months, and for the options program, probably even longer than that, because it's just a bigger learning curve. The neophytes program over here, a lot less involved, only about 10 hours, I think, in comparison to the 35 or 40 hours of these two. And it's a good place to start if you're kind of unsure and you just want to learn the basics. However, I should also say that if you've been in the space for about 6 months, you probably have already superseded a lot of the knowledge in that one. So it might not be of use. Again, watch the video. It's going to go over that in detail. Subscriptions over here, we do still have the 3-month Jewel package for a 20% discount as well. Again, with the Jewel, very, very powerful tool. Watch the video accompanying it as I do go into depth in explaining it. But at the end of the day, again, if you don't actually have solid risk management and position management skills, if you're not already profitable, this is not a magic pill. There is no magic pill indicator. You still have to know how to actually manage risk in order to make it work. And of course, our new partners tab, which we'll actually be adding more to over time. We do have Morinfall offering up his PineScript mastery program, which will teach you how to create and what's the word? Program. Yeah, there you go. The programming word, program indicators. In TradingView. So anyways, moving on to Bitcoin over here, we did see essentially the short-term range being held up yesterday above 90 to 50-ish region. So there's not really too much to be made off of that as it is right now, but I'm going to do something that I typically don't do, or I haven't really been showing recently with Bitcoin. So or just in general, and that is this. And if you've been on this channel for a long time, you already, or you might have an idea of where I'm going with this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some of the simple moon averages, of which I want to put on the red 10 simple, the blue 30 simple, and then I'm going to use the 21 exponential moon average, the yellow one, same stock standard one right there. Now I care a lot about that blue 30 simple moon average, not necessarily on Bitcoin's relationship to it, whether it's above or below, although that does hold true quite a bit, but more so its slope, as slope analysis for the 30 simple is the most important one, and something that my mentor put a lot of faith in. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. I am recording, the microphone's working. So that's cool. But overall, as long as it has a negative slope, I am a little bit skeptical in this current price action. However, because of the way that price action is currently situated right here, it does offer up a very easy dynamic to kind of be interpreting it, in the sense that Bitcoin is on the bullish side, obviously holding the yellow 21 exponential moon average at 9250-ish region. But on the bearish side, we still do have a negative slope right here, and we do still have a series of lower highs very likely in place. However, we are still at a decision point. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially, as long as we're below the 30 simple now, it does, it would be better to err on the side of pausing the bullishness right here. While I did say yesterday that, as long as 9250 does hold up, overall fine, and I would still stay with that today. And technically speaking, from a, just from a level by level perspective, as long as 9250 does hold up, I technically should be still looking for 9550 to 9600, which would be back around this blue box. Hey, where's my blue boxes? Blue boxes, where are you? There you are. There's my blue box of peace and prosperity. Yeah, right between about 9550 and 9600. The second that we actually do break down below 9250 and close, a medium or higher term time frame below there, let's call it like a 12-hour or daily, or even maybe, and this is going to be less scientific here. I don't trust this way as much, but if I did want to be aggressive, I'd use the wick low of yesterday at 9200 even on GDAX. And let me just see if other exchanges agree. Yeah, we do see the same thing on BitMexico. We see the same thing on Stamp, and we see the same thing on Finex. So all those do agree with each other. Then I would be looking for this to come back down to the blue box territory, where kind of the last few wicks were put in on this presumed low at around 9,000 to 8,900-ish region. So that's essentially what's at stake right now. And by the same token, to the upside, if we do take out yesterday's high, at 93.80, it looks like on GDAX, I would be looking for that continuation again up to this region. But overall, the short-term range, funnily enough, is the one that's kind of holding everything up right now, and providing that view for the greater picture. So everything's kind of related right now, which typically does offer up the biggest or the most dependable sources of edge, which I really do like. So that's what I was essentially referring to at the beginning of this video, in the sense that we have some very clear triggers for continuation or reversal, which are governed actually by the short and medium term timeframes right now, which is, you don't see them line up perfectly all together, very often, but when it does happen, you're usually gonna be able to base some nice trades off it. For right now, I am pretty much positionless. I don't really care to trade this right here. As far as Bitcoin goes, I'm very skeptical on it, because here's the thing. While Bitcoin is still, it's still fine right here. Again, as long as it's above 9250, that's fine from structure perspective. It's a little bit alarming to see that NASDAQ and SPY E-mini futures are putting in short-term tops, are putting in medium-term tops, as we spoke about yesterday. Remember, we hit the target. Let me go to the daily here. We hit the target on NAS futures, the medium-term target right here at about, I'd say that's 10,700-ish region, and a rejection right at the end of the day, a nice little shooting shooting star dildo to end off the day, alongside a major massive fib at the 1 spot 272 region. And I do think that we're going to be in for a little bit of a pullback here, at the very least back down to 10,400-ish, 10,450-ish region, as we spoke about yesterday, and then potential to get, and then depending upon how the reaction is there, potential to work its way down lower to the $10,100 to $10,200 region. Now, does that mean that I'm bearish on NAS futures? Fuck no. It just means that short term and medium term, I am looking for a pullback here, as it looks like we are very likely to get continuation to the downside. Especially around the time that New York Stock Exchange opens later today at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So keep an eye out on that. In the interim, I don't really think that we're going to get too much movement. Probably just hold the 92.50-ish range. But hey, if it does break to the downside, then I think that would be the more obvious thing. But for right now, to be very clear, the strength in traditional markets, which is just the strength in pretty much all markets. We've seen all markets essentially rally. Whether you're looking at NAS, whether you're looking at SPY, whether you're looking at fucking Germany over here on DAX, whether you're looking at Japan over here, whether you're looking at India over here, whether you're looking at even fucking gold, all of these things are indications of relative strength between each other. And when all of them and their fucking mothers are rallying to the goddamn moon and Bitcoin is not following, that would imply that Bitcoin is relatively weak. Doesn't mean that Bitcoin's, destined to fail. And I imagine that if they do continue their uptrends, Bitcoin will likely find its footing in the low 9,000s again. But the problem with this is that it does imply that relative weakness, and Bitcoin's had all the fucking chances in the world to get that continuation. Alongside traditional markets, which we have seen strong correlations with over the last little bit over 10 years now, since the genesis of Bitcoin essentially, and Bitcoin has not taken it. So it's like, if you want to make a sports analogy, it's like a team that just keeps on fucking making errors. A baseball analogy would be great. They can win the game, they can take the lead, but they keep on making that same fucking error. And again, I'm being a little bit more dramatic here just because there hasn't really been too much new things to look at on the higher term timeframes, but I do think that it is appropriate. And while Bitcoin is still chugging its way along, and the 2-day and 3-day are still okay, I would express caution if that level is broken to the downside. But as long as we're above 92.50, to be fair, yes, the direction is likely back up to about 9,600, maybe even 9,700-ish region, as we do see that on the 2-day there is actually very obvious hidden bullish divergence between this point, and this point, with specific attention to the 24th of May low right here. As we have made quite a lower low below that, while making a higher high on price action. So that would very likely initiate a target not just 9,600, but actually all the way to the top side of the range at about 9,900-ish region, give or take a few bucks. And this is also coming along the side of 2-day Stokes popping back up to the upside. We don't really have a trend line here to be forming. I'm sure that someone's going to say it's from back here. No, I don't think that works. But this is all alongside the fact that, of course, historic volatility percentile on all of our higher term timeframes is absolutely crushed. So we haven't necessarily seen expansion just yet, but you can imagine that the next move, it just becomes more and more likely that that's actually going to be the emergent trend coming out from this base. So how does that all work out? Well, let me see if this one's closing today. It is. All right, cool. So how does that all work out at the end of the day? Well, pretty much just going off the short-term ranges. I mean, all of that essentially does hold. So if we go over the 3-day, I expect to see something relatively similar as well. It does seem to be setting in a base alongside the yellow 20-minute exponential moving average here. And I should also denote this as well. And shout out to IAM's, or I don't know what name he trades under now, blockchain Al Baghdad. What the fuck? Hey man, can you stop changing your fucking name for the love of God? But he did call it. He did send me a message earlier today, and he called this one out. And credit to him, this is fair play. On the 2-day and higher term timeframes, we do have a potential golden cross in the making here between the 50 simple and the white 200 simple, which I don't really care for simple moving average crosses, whether they be to the upside or the downside. But to see the relevancy of it, I'll let you judge for yourself. Although my sort of mind is not necessarily too thrilled with this overall. However, they are getting rather close to each other, and they will naturally cross the upside inevitably as long as Bitcoin rides that 200 simple and just doesn't break to the downside, which is currently at the spike lows that we've been seeing for the last few weeks, down around 8,900 low. So if we do over the last few initiations of both death crosses and golden crosses, what you can see right here, terrible death cross, did not get anything. Well, I mean, it did get this move right here. That's a 11.25% move to the downside, but not really what you're looking for when you're talking about golden cross and death cross. Over here, certainly a less than perfect cross to the upside, but still spun off about an 82% move to the upside. Pretty damn impressive. To the downside, right in over here. Did get it rather well, to be fair, but look at how close price action was to this, and to be fair, price action is very close to it right now. So if Bitcoin does see the golden cross in the 2-day and essentially just maintains above 8,900, yeah, that's going to look pretty damn good. But that's what I really need to see before following through on something like this. Another great example over here, leading all the way from 2015 to 2020, 350 to 20,000 to the downside right here. Another decent one as well. And then before that, we don't really have any other examples. So realistically, does it have enough history to go off of? It has decent history, but still, levels matter more to me than anything here. And as it stands, to be fair, it doesn't look bad. I mean, the 2-day still looks good. I mean, it's still in an uptrend. This higher low being printed right here is a big deal. But do we see the same thing on CMEs? Because that was the big thing that I was kind of keeping an eye on during the weekend. And on CMEs, we don't necessarily have the same thing going on. In fact, you can see that this low right here is pretty much equal to the low that we just put in on July 1st. So what does that essentially mean? Well, it essentially means that we don't necessarily have the higher low structure that we do see in spot price action. So which one's going to be more accurate? Well, I typically do trust CME's chart more so for trend than I do spot price action. It's a little bit difficult here to kind of make a relationship between them two. We should also note that 2-day Stokes are not in the same sort of posturing as we do see on spot price action, and they will remain to the downside essentially as long as we are below the current high for this 2-day dildo at about 94.50 on CMEs. Now, spot price action, I think their high is about 9,400. So again, that would be the continuation point for the short and medium term timeframes, looking for the next drive up, so to speak, to the 95.50, 9,600 title. It's top five features for Thrones Britannia. Elsa taking orders in the background. Dish time, bitches. Just kidding. I'm gonna eat so much food today, man. I'm so fucking hungry. Okay, what else do we want to look at? 3-day, is there anything of particular interest right here? The 3-day is setting in a higher low, however, in comparison to our 22nd of May low. So there is a good counterpoint to that. However, I'd still just this is all at the end of the day secondary to levels, just like Avicii. Looking at the daily right here, we can see that momentum on the daily does remain to the upside as long as we essentially maintain the low of yesterday at 92.50 on CMEs. For the same area on spot price action, actually a lot more forgiving, all the way down to 89.50. Momentum remains to the upside on the daily Stokes. And it looks like we actually are maybe going to even break this trend line right here. Yeah, sorry, we're right at the edge of it, to be fair. And for the downside right here, hold on. Hey, hold on. It's too aggressive slope right there. We got something like this going on right here. Now, I don't think that formations work in Stokes, but I do think that supporting resistance does work. And well, it's been working for the last couple months since late April, I suppose. So again, testing the top side of it. Is this a time that it actually breaks or not? Well, remains to be seen, but I'd imagine that it will inevitably break if we do take out yesterday's high, and if we do pop back down below yesterday's low, then we'll very likely see it turn back down, and then we can say, all right, very likely to come back down and test out the bottom side liquid zone somewhere down between 9,000, maybe 8,900, so, something like that. But does that constitute a full-on breakdown to the downside? No, it doesn't. And I think I was too premature last week with looking for a breakage of this formation or a confirmed breakage of this formation below. I think it was 9,000 because we actually did get that closure on a weekend. But as you can see right here, actually on a daily, no, we never closed below 9,000. So I guess that condition was never met. So yeah, I think I was just straight up wrong on that. What's really going on is more so 8,900 is the critical area, as that's what seems to be respected across all timeframes, across all different corollaries for Bitcoin. So yeah, Krown making bad arrows once again. Well, maybe just getting excited over nothing. However, still do have this to deal with as well. I don't really care for diagonal trend lines, although to be thorough, yes, it technically is in there, and that is where we are finding our current top right now. Doesn't mean that Bitcoin can get back above it, but it just means it also would imply that if we get back above yesterday's high, yes, very likely to see continuation at the very least to 9,600. At that point, I'd be looking for the 2-day hidden bullish divergence to play out, and I really look for extension all the way up here at the very least. And at that point, things really do start to look a lot more bullish overall, as your higher low structure, would remain in place for your higher time frames, not on the daily though, unfortunately. And then what do you have? I mean, you basically have an ascending triangle, which I think is a lot more workable on a 2-day chart. So at that point, again, the upside targets into the 11,000 region are still valid. They're still valid, but they're only valid or only tradable, at least from my opinion, from my perspective, if Bitcoin can close above the same liquid territory that we've been looking at since 2-3 months ago now, since May. So May, April, June, July. What is that, like 3 or 4 months now? So yeah, it's been quite some time. And if Bitcoin does exceed that area, yeah, I would still be targeting at the very least 10,400. And honestly, I'd really look for extension to the measure move all the way up a little bit north of 11,000, and then we can talk about further targets from there. But for right now, when Bitcoin's kind of in limbo, quite literally in the middle of this range, does it make sense to really be angling my trading cannons towards there? For some people who are more long-term, maybe. For myself, no. But people who are looking at something like that, you have a very easy way to be managing risk here, just using this 200 simple and these wick lows that we do see kind of formulating this higher low right here, presumptively, in early July. So, if you are trading for something like that, it can definitely be done, especially if you're an options trader. This would actually be a damn good time to be putting on some of those spreads. And maybe even buying some volatility as it is so low. So naturally, it's just one of those times where it actually would make sense. Looking at our volume signature, also suggestive that we do see this move happen sooner rather than later. Suggesting an apex. Hey, god damn it, man, this is really fucking annoying. Suggesting an apex in a couple weeks, really. This thing is set to break. I'm honestly looking for a break this week. I know that I said that last week as well. But the reason why that changes, or the reason why that's not like super scientific, is because we're just talking about probabilities here with historical volatility percentile. We're not even probabilities, but we're just kind of making relationships between past sessions and this current session, and saying, hey, this session is irregularly low in comparison to what we've seen before. So you do expect something like this to naturally expand from this region. And as you can see right here, even the moving average is like literally below what we're printing right now. We've been single digits for 3 weeks, working on 4 perhaps, and that's just been unheard of in any time of Bitcoin's history. I mean, we played some pretty low volatile areas out before, but not for this long. March 2019 rings a bell. Also September 2019 rings a bell, and both of these were phenomenal moves. This one obviously coming for a 3x to the upside, more than 3x to the upside, and this one over here coming for a multi-$1,000 move to the downside, ultimately getting down to 4,400, although I'd say that 6,600 right here is more appropriate. So $4,000 move nonetheless, which is pretty fucking impressive. So, historically speaking, when we do get this low, we're looking at, big moves. And that's really all I got. Let's go over here. I want to check out my other secondary chart. Okay, so this is again going back to the daily Bollinger Bands, which do I always use these tools? No. But when things are slow, when things are boring, I'll shop around, essentially. Just find an indicator that confirms what you want to see and go with that. But what happened was significant yesterday from the Bollinger Band perspective. Well, we got our first open and close above the median Bollinger Band. As you can see, it's not always so scientific. In fact, the last time that it happened, it was an immediate fake out to the downside once again. And I do think that if we take out yesterday's low, we will see another try back towards the bottom side Bollinger Band, and that would likely be your continuation point, very likely being tested once again, 8,900 for the long term move to the downside, which then we would target probably 8,550, 8,100, 7,500, and 6,900, all the same areas that we spoke about before. But it all hinges upon this area right here if you are looking at this from a 200 band perspective. And this is coming along the side of the 200 band width being incredibly low, like just like historical volatility percentile, which should naturally be related to our 200 band width. It does suggest that actually from a 200 band width perspective, we have been lower a few times in Bitcoin's history. November 2018 was one. September 2016 was one. That one was a huge move to the upside. March 2016 as well. And a few other times in Bitcoin's history going back to December 2012 as well. But again, anytime that we do get this low, it is a pretty stark move outside of that region. And while it doesn't necessarily imply direction, that's what our other tools are for, of which we can use the daily MACD. It would certainly be a lot more on the bullish side. This is actually quite significant here because we do see the bullish cross on this, and more importantly, also getting back above the median 200 band here as well, which is how you really want to be using that. You want to be using it in a two-pronged attack. You don't just want to be looking for crosses on the MACD. You want to see a break of supporting resistance plus momentum turn in that way. That's usually what does confirm a nice move. Stochastic RSI, just a bunch of bullshit, but fun to look at nonetheless when you're bored as fuck. Now there's a counterpoint to this. Looking at the weekly is showing hidden bearish divergence on weekly MACD. MACD's nuts all the way down to the 20 simple at 81.50, and that would be my medium term target if Bitcoin does break to the downside from this current structure. So it is also worth mentioning that that weekly Stokes kind of showing the same sort of thing as well. Weekly Stokes will remain to the downside as long as we're below 10,000 on a weekly closing basis, and that's coming from the critical territory right here, which would officially force us below the critical zone, which anytime that we've seen that in Bitcoin's history in the past, that has been the start of your 30 to 40% retracements going all the way back to June 2019 right here. This one giving you a 42% retracement. You already know where I'm going with this. Time before that was $20,000 high. You already know that one was huge. Almost immediately 45% and ultimately 70, and well, I guess ultimately all the way down here for an 80% retracement. A few other times in this macro bull trend right here, 30.5% right there, 35% right there, 39% right there, 33.5% right there, 37% right there, and 39% right there. And let's see if this works. Fuck, it doesn't work. Hold on, but does it actually work? No, it doesn't work, motherfucker. Oh well, one day it'll work, I promise. I could probably figure that out later. I'm bringing back the soundboard. The soundboard's coming back, baby, because we got some shit coins to analyze. So yeah, overall, you can still make a very strong case for both sides. But again, the documentable things, all analysis, all fucking Jesus toast aside, comes down to levels at the end of the day. So as far as trading goes, it's been more or less the same, man. Been more or less the same. The only people who are having fun right now are options traders. So shout out to my options brethren, enjoying the lack of volatileness as well. Quite nice. Okay, what else do we want to look at? Yeah, let's go look at 12-hour. 12-hour Stokes getting nice and up there, but that is good because we actually did break this trend line that we were working on for the last month or so. I think going all the way back to late May. So that is officially broken. That'll also be, of course, more on the blue law-ish side. And let's see what does price actually need to close above in order to maintain this upwards posturing. It needs to close above 90 essentially. So it looks rather likely right now, and I do think that the 10-hour is showing. 10-hour is very interesting. I'm going to give up a big one right here, but the 10-hour chart, the 10-hour Stokes are starting to take over for the 12-hour Stokes. I think we're seeing something new going on right now, and I've noticed this over the last month and a half. The 12-hour Stokes have not been as important as the 10-hour Stokes. They've been actually more accurate and gotten the moves from a better price point consistently in comparison to the 12-hour Stokes. So is that the new trading secret going on right here? Perhaps yes. And now that we're in minute number 28.5, then, well, I can give away the secrets because it's only the TA nerds. And my friends, you're in the right place. But yeah, keep an eye on this one because I do think that it is taking over for the 12-hour. You can see that we are wrangled by the 200 simple right here. Not a death sentence in and of itself, but it is interesting to see that the top side wick of our current 10-hour dildo at 93.20 is what is needed is the price action that is needed to close at for this time frame in order to remain momentum to the upside. Otherwise, it will naturally turn down, and this will be considered a rejection of the 200 simple, and very likely will come back down and test around 9100-ish region. So I keep an eye out on that. We don't have any hidden bearish divergence here to be spoken of on a 10 hour. What about an 8 hour? Nope, not there as well. What about a 6 hour? Nope, not there as well. What about a 4 hour? 4 hour is there, but I think that's already played out. We saw the 4 hour bearish divergence confirm right here, comes down to 9200 low, and it gets picked up. There's your $200 move, or sorry, almost $200 move right there. So fair enough. Don't really have too much to add on to it other than that. White 200 simple on the 4 hour naturally giving our highs right now as well, and does have a negative slope, which I do think is appropriate to speak about in the grand scheme of things. Anyways, one of the other reasons why I do think that traditional markets are likely to have a pullback today, and by extension Bitcoin, is because we already see that Japan trading for the day is coming down a little bit off of yesterday's closing high. In fact, actually getting continuation down below the low of yesterday's doji dodo, which I do think is going to at the very least net us back down to the 21 here, down around 22,300. And the same sort of areas on NASDAQ future would be akin to essentially what we spoke about earlier at 10,400-ish region. So if we do play out some downside here, very likely that Bitcoin will follow, as what you expect to see if you're looking at things from a relative perspective is that if Bitcoin does not rally as much as the leaders in the market, which are NAS essentially, and all the tech companies that make it up, like Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, are the main leaders right now. If they take a break, and Bitcoin hasn't been going up as much with them, and they start to go down a little bit, consolidate a little bit lower, which is not problematic from a long-term perspective, but they can certainly afford it. Bitcoin will likely get hit a little bit harder on a move like that, and we do see a lot of momentum oscillators suggesting a turn down here as well. And again, this is not to say that I'm looking for like a reversal to fucking new all-time like lows. No, I'm actually massively bullish on this long-term, or maybe not long-term, but I do think that there is more upside overall. But I do think that short-term and medium-term, we're getting ready for a pullback here. So depending upon how much Bitcoin reacts to that, or responds to that, better said, is going to be very telling of what ranges does it break. Does Bitcoin break its higher low structure on the 2-day? Then there's a big problem. We haven't really talked about the downside, or we briefly spoke about the downside targets today. But let's go see what India is doing. India's looking good. No, India's looking toppy on the daily, but on the weekly looking good. So long-term fine, short-term, medium-term probably coming back down to 10,500-ish region. Microsoft ending the day down as a nice reversal as well. Nice bearish engulfing, or is it? Yeah, it is. It is a bearish engulfing, so very nice. Apple, no bearish engulfing, but a nice shooting star dildo, and Tesla. A nice doji dildo, usually a sign of indecision, perhaps reversal as well. So I do think that market's going to take a little bit of a breather today as far as traditional goes, and that likely leads on to Bitcoin as well. Let's take a look at gold. Gold is working its way to our $1,800 plus target, which I still have no real reason to take away. I think it still looks good here. I think I'd actually even extend those targets more long-term to around 1,900, and then come back and analyze from there. I don't really see anything else to add. Pound yen shitcoin. What is this piece of garbage doing? Putting another. Yeah, I still think it does swipe up to 136 on a daily. Let's go see what else do we have? GBDC, you garbage. Actually, GBDC getting rejected to end yesterday. I think that's actually rather problematic as well. Maybe even telling, you could say. What was the other one that I wanted to look at? Where's my euro dollar? Motherfucker, there it is. Euro dollar consolidated at a high level. We did hit our target up to the 200 simple. I don't really have anything to make out of it other than that now. Very long term macro, I'm actually very bearish on this. Short and medium term is going to depend on how we close the weekly. Another closure below 113 and I'd actually get bearish for a move back down to 110, 111 region. Probably takes a while to happen, but overall that's what I'd be looking for. Let's go check out some shitty coins. Hey, what's that? Link hitting the target almost to the fucking T. 66,000 satoshis, not bad, and still the best chart in cryptocurrency land. Cardano, I think this one. Do we have another target here? I guess I don't have anything marked off, so perhaps not. But it looks very good here. Looks very good here. I can't really talk shit about Cardano at this current time. Maybe we have something like this going on. Nope, it's actually even surpassed that one as well, and that's some Jesus toast there too. Yeah, looks good. Although fuck, I don't trust altcoins if Bitcoin starts moving the other way. And I do think that it is a little bit indicative that the end of the crypto rally might be coming to its last legs when you do see the altcoins rallying. They typically rally last. What about Mr. Buterol? Mr. Buterol, where are you at? Where you are? I know I have it down here. Yeah, there we go. 238. Looks to me like it's a little bit short-term toppy here as well, but still carrying out the bull flag structure. Or actually, I guess I have it on this chart here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, still here. Need to see a closure above 243, and then I would target a move towards 286.5. But for right now, it looks to me like it wants to test some downside back down to 235 and 3/4 base. That's where I'd be looking towards a little bit of bearish divergence here. So yeah, I would target around 235.5 region. Litecoin, what are you doing, you crazy lovely lady? Looks like another rejection on the top side resistance of this, what looks to be in a descending triangle. Oops, I guess I made that on a weekly probably. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't really, without the soundboard, altcoins just aren't the same. But we can look at mid perp and shit perp, of which I actually do think that they are of interest here. Mid perp, almost about to buck its long-term trend. Shit perp, I think, has. Yes, indeed it has. So shit coins are rallying right now. What does that tell you? Well, usually, as the knowledge goes, the junk rallies last in in the market cycle, in rotations. So I'd keep an eye on that as well. Wow, we're 36 minutes into this bitch. Jesus. Okay, let's go back to Bitcoin. Nice. Okay. Let's go back to the lower term time frames. Let's start to map this one out a little bit more. Still looking at 92.50 as a nice kind of decision point for this. However, can we use yesterday's daily high and daily low to judge this one out? I do think so, especially when you consider the higher term time frame moving averages and also structure in comparison to traditional markets. If we do move below yesterday's low at 9,200-ish region, I would look for another retest down to the $9,050 base right here. At that point, it's just another kind of slug between the prior liquid zone between about 8,900 to 9,050-ish region, kind of constituting that lower breakdown below 8,900, especially, or even 8,950 probably gets it now, as that is the 89 exponential moving average, which we have been kind of riding for the last, for a while now, actually, last few months. By the same token, to the upside a little bit, technically speaking, I should actually be looking for upside here as long as we're above 92.50. I'm not going to trade it though. I'll be very direct with you. I'm not trading that. I'm very skeptical of what's going on here. If we do take out yesterday's high, I think that would be quite a safe, likely a safe trade. Although it's not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor, but I do think that Bitcoin would then at the very least hit up to about 95.50, 9,600-ish region. And then at that point, you have to really be looking at the bigger picture with the 2-day and 3-day potential hidden bullish divergence in play, which very likely forces things back up to the top side of the range at 9,900, 10,000-ish region, and that really makes things, once again, when we're closer to the top side resolution of this, with the 2-day golden cross potentially looming overhead, very, 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 very likely that we actually do break to the upside. But then again, I was thinking the same thing to the downside over here. Bitcoin just didn't get the continuation, and fair enough, goes back into purgatory and. More sideways bullshit. We didn't even look at probabilities. Let's go look at probabilities right now. Okay. So I'm going to use yesterday's high as the top side one, and I'll use yesterday's low as the bottom side one. So that's going to be about 9,400 to the upside and 9,200 to the downside. Hello, sir. Bali, where you been, man? I haven't heard from you in a little bit of time. 94, and we'll do 92. All right, let's see what the probabilities of. And keep in mind though that these moves that they spin off are not related to the high term timeframes. It's just they're both short term and medium term, both to the upside and the downside. And to the downside, a lot less impressive actually, just because it would only really imply a move down to about 9,000-ish region. Still need to get the actual break below in order to get the the shattering move, if you want to call it that. I would say though that Bali's moms, she's got it going on, and Pig's moms too. But there's a little bit of an issue here because it is starting to lose a little bit of momentum. As you can see, convergence is somewhat happening there. Very interesting, although it hasn't been too accurate on the 12-hour. Or let's go to the daily. The daily's still expanding. Okay, so fair enough. The daily would still be bullish. However, rings are negative slope. What do you make of that? Well, your weatherman is here to tell you. we have we have a 35% probability to get the upside continuation versus a 46% probability to the downside. So technically, short-term downside is more likely, short-term upside less likely. So fair enough. I think that's a good place to leave it off. With that said, I want to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest. Until next time, take care.